Hey everybody, my name is Jared and I am a Master Mason in the state of Mississippi in the United States of America. And today we're going to answer two viewer questions. The first simply is, what are Freemasons? Well, that's a pretty fair question to ask. And the second one is, I have heard that Masons practice embarrassing or homosexual acts. Is that a true statement? So, let's first start on what even Freemasons are. There are books thicker than I am tall. Well, maybe not one book, but maybe if you stack the books. Tons of information out there explaining the history of Freemasonry. But let me give you as succinct of a version as I am capable of doing. Back when there were stonemason guilds, back when people first learned how to hew and square stones and put them into buildings and make archways and all these kind of architectural techniques, they wanted to keep that information to themselves. They did not want other people getting a hold of their secrets. It's just like a business having a trademark and copyright on their information that they don't want other people to have. After all, if everybody could make a Coca-Cola taste just like Coca-Cola, then Coca-Cola has no value to their business. These people wanted there to be value to their trade, so they only wanted certain people to know how to do their craft. Fair enough? Alright, so as things continued, Freemasonry was before and during feudalism. So this is a time where people, commoners, were not allowed to do anything other than work the land that they were given by their feudal lords. Okay? But Masons had a special status because they could erect these buildings and do it with a lot of skill. And so they were free. They were free to travel around to do their work and perform their craft. And so that is what a Freemason is. Now, today, obviously, stonemasons still exist, but when we're talking about Freemasons, like me, what we're talking about are speculative Masons. And what we mean is that there are a lot of ways to think about things that are in nature and things that are in stonemasonry, things that are in scripture, that we can learn lessons from in a thoughtful sort of way, where we can expound on something. And obviously I'm trying to not hit that wall where I'm going too far, but suffice to say there are lessons to be learned from the simple tasks. Well, simple, that's not a fair thing because these people had a very tight skill that very few people have, but from the skill set of a stonemason back in the 1st century, they had lessons there that could be applied morally and not just operatively in their actual craft. And so as people wanted to expound that, they became accepted into the guilds. So they didn't have the skill to operate as a Mason, but they were accepted into the guild and allowed to speculate on the morality lessons that could be taught from what these members of the stonemason guilds were doing. So that has grown today into a worldwide fraternity. So a fraternity, simply by definition, is a group of men who perpetuate the lessons that have been handed down to us for millennia now. So that is what Freemasons actually are. It's a bunch of guys getting together to talk about moral lessons that we can learn from pretty much anything and everything we interact with in our lives, or even things that we could interact with that aren't necessarily a part of our daily lives. So that's what Freemasonry is, and through that we learn to improve ourselves and we strive to improve our communities and have an impact on the world at large through things like charitable giving, caring for local families, and things like that. In fact, there's a definition that gets tossed around, and it's on a website I've shared with you before. Let me bring that up for you to look at. It says Freemasonry defined. In Old England, it was defined as a system of morality veiled in allegory, or a story, and illustrated by symbols. Masonry is a course of moral instruction which uses both allegories and symbols to teach its lessons. For instance, our symbols for the entered apprentice degree are the 24-inch gauge and the common gavel. Today, Freemasonry is defined as an organized society of men symbolically applying the principles of operative masonry and architecture to the science and art of character building. This means applying Masonic principles will make you a better person. So whether the way they phrased it or the way I phrased it makes more sense to you, hopefully that can explain to you what a Freemason is. So let's jump into this second question, which interestingly seems to get asked more than the simple question of what are Freemasons, and that is whether or not there are any embarrassing or even homosexual acts that take place inside of a lodge. You know, this spurs from the fact that we specifically have meetings behind closed doors. I could sit here until my face is blue and my throat is raw and tell you over and over again that there are no sexual acts, no embarrassing acts, there's no hazing, there's no anything like that inside of a Masonic lodge. And all you have to do is say, well, then what does happen in there? And I'll tell you, I'm sorry, but that's a secret. We don't talk about that. You'd have to become a member to find out. And therein lies the catch-22. You can then turn right back around and say, well, so you are doing that and you just won't tell us. So it's a fruitless argument. Now, that's why usually when these questions pop up on my channel, I just delete them, because there's no way to finish that conversation. No matter what I say, no matter what you say, we'll never come to a conclusion, because there is inherent no way for it to be answered. With you getting 100% satisfaction that what I told you is the entire truth, because I won't finish your question, which is inevitably going to be, well, then what does happen inside of the Masonic Lodge? I will reiterate, when we bring a new candidate into the lodge, they've petitioned the lodge, we've accepted them, and they're about to be initiated, we tell them, look, nothing is going to happen to you that will be embarrassing. It is our job today to make you feel at home, not to make you feel embarrassed, but we do have certain lessons that we want to impress upon you, and so you have to go through a special ceremony to learn those lessons. Everything that you're going to go through tonight is the same thing that everybody else in this building has had to go through, and is the same thing that's been done for 200 years in the state of Mississippi. You will have somebody next to you the entire time, so if you have any problems or concerns, you'll have somebody right there to help you. So if you start feeling unwell for some reason, or you have an emergency that you need to deal with, then somebody will be there to help you, and so you don't feel out of place since you're new here. And we do everything we can to try to make them feel comfortable and at ease, because we want them to do that. We want them to feel comfortable, because we know that once they get through the initiation and they realize that while some things had to remain secret and only be revealed to them in the initiation, that the same men that they knew before the lodge opened were the same men that are there in the lodge, and the same things that they admired about those men, the same things that led them to even want to petition the lodge, are the same values that are still there. And there wasn't any surprise that happened once they got behind the closed doors of the lodge. So that's the best explanation that I can give you on that regard. I feel confident that I can tell you that were you to join a lodge, you are not going to be embarrassed, and nobody is going to do anything to your person in any way, shape, or form. So if that is your concern, it is certainly unfounded and not necessary. So I hope that answers your questions. If you have any other questions you'd like to ask, leave them down in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them in another video. And until then, we will see you next time. Bye.